It's mayhem out there right now. I've seen counteroffers result in an extra $50,000 for an employee. It's a market unlike anything I've ever seen before.
Employees are in the driver's seat right now. If they want to make a change, whether it's for better quality of life or if they want to make a change for money.
It's all about timing.
COVID has put us into a spot where every industry, every sector, and every geography in Canada had vaccine access more or less at the same time.
During a good year, wage growth across Canada can reach 3%. Recent data shows that for new hires, wages increased 7% during the pandemic.
What's happening with the average wages is really, if I can say it in these terms, it's really mucked up.
Canada's employment paradox means that even though the national jobless rate is high, hiring and keeping workers remains a challenge. And it's not just in the technology sector. Hospitality, food services, retail, and health are also experiencing labor shortages.
Economists say that the lack of immigration is a big factor, and so is the fact that a lot of workers have moved on or retired, creating a labor squeeze that favors job seekers.
But while a better paycheck is nice, recruiters say job seekers are looking for other things, like flexible work models with a mix of in-person and remote work.
But when employees factor in the commute and they factor in the time that would be lost with their family, that is often outweighing the financial benefit of just a check in the bank.
Just make sure you understand what you're getting into before making the leap.
I think, you can get excited about the money and the job title. Those all sound great and what the company does, but to truly understand what you're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis is really the bulk of your time.
Anne Gaviola, Global News, Toronto.
The record has now been broken for the most expensive comic book ever sold. This near-mint condition comic originally hit the stands for 12 cents back in 1962. The edition was the first ever appearance of Spider-Man and has sold at auction for an eye-popping $3.6 million US. It beat out the private sale of a Superman comic earlier this year that sold for just $3.2 million.
For a deeper understanding of how the world is changing and an inside look at the innovations of tomorrow, watch The New Reality.
This is a topic that we all need to confront.
New season starts October 2nd on Global.
The police officer asked him if he needed help, and the man replied, "No, it's not my blood." And then he responded, "There are two more in the garage."
There before me was this grotesque predator.
We don't know the motive behind this. This is a crime of greed. It's a crime of hate.
No question. He has got something on that farm he does not want us to see.
You're hoping that they're going to be alive, but...
Can you tell us where they are?
Crime Beat. New season starts Friday, October 1st on Global. Uncovering untold stories.
You're saying the government is complicit in those deaths?
Absolutely. For a deeper understanding of how the world is changing.
It's just a race against who can develop quicker, the virus or us.
What's your fear?
My fear is that nothing changes.
And an inside look at the innovations of tomorrow.
If we don't do it now, at some point it's going to be too late.
Watch The New Reality.
This is a topic that we all need to confront.
New season starts October 2nd on Global.
Here are the top stories we're tracking. Advanced polling is now open for this federal election. Eligible voters will have until 9 p.m. Monday to cast their ballots. COVID safety measures will be...
This Saturday morning, marking 20 years since the 9/11 terror attacks, Americans pause to reflect and remember the nearly 3,000 lives lost 2 decades ago. Plus, the countdown to the federal election, the latest from the campaign trail as Canadians cast their ballots at advanced polls this weekend.
Also ahead, building for Beijing. A Team Canada ski cross racer tells us how he's getting ready for the 2022 Winter Olympics. Global News Weekend starts right now. Good morning. morning and welcome to Global News Weekend. I'm Mike Arsenault.
And I'm Alia Adam.
And it's been 5 long months since I've heard that. Alia, welcome back. How does it feel to return to Global News Weekend?
I mean, time flies when you're taking care of a tiny human, right?
Yes,
It's
having a lot of fun, but also some not so fun times as well.
That's it. Yes, I've been trying to figure out ways to describe motherhood, and let me tell you, it's hard. It's the most incredible, challenging, exhausting, amazing thing I've ever done.
Every possible adjective.
Every single adjective, exactly.
Parenthood for sure. So the good thing is, though, having a newborn, working a morning show prepares you for that. These early mornings, this is just normal for you now, isn't it?
We had a very serious chat, Ali and I, last night.
Yes.
I said, listen, if you could just sleep through the night, wake up at 3 as my cute little alarm, and it'll work out perfect. I'll feed you, then I'll go to work, put you back to sleep. Everything will be fine. Stay optimistic.
And if you want to be bad for dad, well, that's dad's problem to deal with while we do the show, and then you can be the sweet little angel when mom returns.
Exactly.
And there we go. So that's the deal you made, and it's working out so far.
Yes.
Great to have you back.
Thank
we have a jam-packed show. Let's start with a first look at the forecast right now. And the big weather story this weekend was Hurricane Larry, which made landfall in Newfoundland through the overnight hours, bringing significant rainfall and very strong winds. The St. John's Airport saw a wind gust of 145 kilometers per hour. The good news is Larry, fast moving, and has already departed. However, thousands of customers without power in the province of Newfoundland. Across the rest of the country, temperatures generally at or a little bit below the seasonal average. Southern Ontario a little bit warmer than normal for this afternoon. As we take a look at the radar satellite, fairly quiet across much of eastern Canada. Some rain and thunderstorms in northern Ontario, and also some more rain on the way as we get through the weekend. And this is how much is expected. Pockets of southern Ontario could see anywhere between 15 and 30 millimeters of rain. That's primarily going to be a Sunday story. Saturday, across Western Canada, showers, significant rainfall in southern and central Alberta into southern Saskatchewan. That will continue for much of the day today. But what about tomorrow and beyond? That's all coming up in just a little bit. Alia, back over to you.
It was 20 years ago today that the world watched in horror as nearly 3,000 people lost their lives in the September 11th terror attacks. Americans are pausing today to remember those who were killed when terrorists hijacked 4 commercial airplanes and crashed 2 of them into New York's World Trade Center. Bradley Blackburn is in Lower Manhattan at the site of what was once the World Trade Center.
Today, the nation will pause to mark 20 years since the September 11th attacks. Memorials are planned across the country, the largest in New York, where the Twin Towers once stood.
We're here to pay our respect to all our friends and our co-workers and everybody else, all the innocent lives that were taken that day.
Iowa firefighter Nate Smith came to New York to honor the victims.
Just to kind of pay tribute to fallen brothers and sisters. It's pretty emotional.
Yesterday, a candlelight service was held near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where United Airlines Flight 93 went down.
It's a beautiful memorial to all of them, and it seems like yesterday that it happened.
A beam of light now shines into the sky over the Pentagon. More than 125 people died when a hijacked plane slammed into the building on 9/11. President Biden will attend memorial events at all 3 locations today, starting right here at the site of the World Trade Center. The President and First Lady Jill Biden arrived in New York City late last night. Mr. Biden discussed the September 11th tragedy in a video released by the White House.
No matter how much time has passed, these commemorations bring everything painfully back, as if you just got the news a few seconds ago.
Nearly 3,000 people died in the initial attacks, a death toll that's still rising as injuries and illnesses continue to claim lives. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
The events of 9/11 changed air travel for everyone. But on that day, there was a big impact at Canadian airports where hundreds of U.S.-bound flights landed. Gander, Newfoundland became a town of refuge for thousands of those travelers. The town's population almost doubling. 20 years later, Ross Lord travels to Gander for a look back at those events.
Welcome to unexpected visit to Canada. We're in Gander.
In all, 38 planes landed in Gander, and almost 7,000 bewildered passengers into a town that held just 10,000 residents to begin with. after school bus drivers who'd been on strike drove the so-called plain people to school gymnasiums converted into makeshift hotels. Gander's hockey arena became a warehouse for stacks of food and drinks, and the laid-back charm of the town and surrounding communities soon put their distraught guests at ease.
One guy said to me, where can you go in the world, sit on the steps of a church right across from a police station and drink a bottle of wine?
It's not just that Gander accepted the so-called plain people, it's how people here embraced them and how deeply they considered their needs.
Well, this is the room where Libby stayed when she was with us. The spare room was spick and span. The sheets were, as I said before many times, dried on the line, because you sleep a lot better when the sheets are dried on the line.
Bonds forged in hardship are stronger, as celebrated in the Broadway smash hit Come From Away. There's even talk of a Hollywood movie version. Permanent reminders include this chunk of steel from the World Trade Center, and there are more fragile mementos. Post-it notes at the airport's emergency center listing flight numbers. The notes are still on the wall 20 years later. There are no plans to remove them. For people in the Gander area, it doesn't take much for the pride and the sorrow to return.
As we speak, of course, there's the situation in Afghanistan is certainly something that turns the world's attention to it again and stirs up a lot of those emotions again.
When COVID-19 started last March, the first thing that went through my mind the day that we went into lockdown was, wow, this feels familiar. And it all came flooding back.
Pandemic restrictions have prevented some plain people from returning this year to show their gratitude, but fond memories are immune, even when they're the result of tragedy. Ross Lord, Global News, Gander, Newfoundland and Labrador.
The federal leaders are picking up the pace on the campaign trail after back-to-back debates this week. The two frontrunners taking shots at one another while one leader is publicly admitting the campaign has been a challenge. Miranda Anthistle reports.
I need to earn the vote of the people that I'm seeking to represent.